Hello, everybody. This week I wanted to start by talking about why we're presenting words every week for discussion and contemplation. So the original journaling activity that started with Molly in 2003 was a process that she went through where she took a word that had come to her as she was journaling and free writing. So the idea of something being presented to you from a place that isn't you, right? So a guided meditation practice, a guided journaling practice. So this guide is a way for you to understand yourself a little bit more. And the idea of our weekly practice is everybody who's watching and wants to learn a little bit more about themselves, you would take the word that we present on Monday and you would journal about that word. You would think about what that word means to you, how that word impacts you, how it affects you, and then communicate those feelings or those thoughts on our group page or on our YouTube page, and just open a discussion about who we are, where we come from, and how we experience the world. And the framework that encompasses this practice, this journey, is the personality typing system called IMR System. And it's 9 personality types that we use color to represent and describe relationships between each personality type. So this week we're discussing the word humiliation. And Molly had a lot of different thoughts about humiliation. Her idea in the beginning, when she was first journaling about this, was what do you see in other people that really bothers you or you find really irritating that you might be able to find in yourself if you looked carefully enough? So I like the idea of journaling on humiliation from that place. Are you looking out into the world, seeing things that bother you or irritate you in the world, being openly bothered by those things, and then in turn going around and doing those same behaviors? So watching yourself and processing your activities and your feelings every day is part of this growth experience. And that's what we're doing here with each word. So for me, when I think about humiliation, I think about the impact it has on children. That's where it starts for me. So my background is in psychology and child development. So for me, it's the idea that I was very careful with my kids when I was raising them, and even children in general, and adults now, as my kids have gotten older, and as I'm out in the world being around other people and communicating with my friends and family, that when it comes to discussing with someone something that they've done or they're going through that needs to be corrected or addressed, it's important, I believe it's important to do those kind of conversations or have those kind of conversations privately. That when you address things, whether it's children or adults, when you address things publicly, there is a chance for that feeling of humiliation. And it's such a strong feeling to be embarrassed about your behavior or the way you're communicating in front of a bunch of people, that stops the process of communication, that stops the process of deep, meaningful communication, because the conversation then becomes about the humiliation. So when you have an issue with someone, I believe, whether it's a child or an adult, I believe it's best to communicate those issues one-on-one, to talk to somebody after you've thought about what it really is, not necessarily in a reactionary way, but when you've thought about what your issue is, when you want to communicate that issue to someone, that if you can have a one-on-one conversation with that person, it's going to be more valuable. You're going to have a better chance at intimate communication, and you're going to get more results out of that conversation than you would if you publicly discuss those things. So whether that's on Facebook or group chats or in a group event, when you're scolding someone or correcting someone and there's a chance for humiliation, that public humiliation, it really is best to bring that into a private setting, into a one-on-one setting. And you'll learn that in business school, you'll learn that in psychology classes or psychology concepts, that kind of public shaming or public humiliation really isn't valuable. It really takes away the impact of what you're saying. So for me, I like to think about this word in that way, that when you're addressing issues with people, it's important to do it one-on-one. And that was really what hit home for me when we were discussing humiliation. That was the point that I thought was important to realize as you process and grow and learn how to communicate better with people in your life, especially when there's issues or trouble or suffering that's created. And when it comes to humiliation, that's a big one. I think when we're younger, we have less control over that. It's harder to stand up for yourself and say, hey, listen, don't talk to me like that. Please don't treat me that way in front of people. If you have an issue with me, I'd like to take this to a private one-on-one setting. Or I'd like you to talk to me about this personally, not in front of this group. When you're older, you have a better chance of really expressing that in a way that you can defend yourself, or that you can advocate for yourself. And I think the same thing happens as you start to get even older, as you become old enough that it's, again, maybe your words don't come out as quickly, your communication style isn't as easy to produce. And as you get older, it also becomes important to understand that you might not always be able to defend yourself. So when you're talking to someone who's maybe very elderly, remember that it's a similar situation, that the more private and personal you can make some of those conversations, the better chance you have of your point becoming useful for that person, that they can actually hear you. They don't get blinded by the humiliation of it. So thank you for watching today, and I would love to see some comments, some thoughts. I hope you take some time to journal about this word. If you are interested in taking this journey with Molly and I, you could go back to the beginning when we started with our very first red words, our anger, and move through each one of those words and read her posts and watch my videos and just learn about yourself. That's what we're here for, is to just learn about each other, learn about ourselves, learn about our personality, and become better communicators and stronger, healthier, more whole people, so that we can go out into the world and spread that light. So thank you for showing up today, and we'll see you next week.